You're listening to Win-Win, an entrepreneurial community with your host, Ben Wolf.
And welcome to Win-Win, the entrepreneurial community. I am Ben Wolf, as always, your host. And we're going to learn about a very interesting topic today, which is how to deliver a tag team fractional leadership model or solution. It should be very interesting, pretty innovative, I think. Ask everybody to pause for a second, subscribe, leave a review, like, or follow. Please take a moment to do that on whatever platform you are watching this or listening to this on. We'll make it more accessible to people out there, make those algorithms show it to more people. So we'll help more people with the content here. Appreciate you doing that. And with that, I want to get into introducing our guests today, two guests who are an experienced fractional COO and fractional CFO who have teamed up to create a combined offering to clients who actually turn over all of their operations to them. So this should be very interesting. You can find out more about them at fractionalgurus.com. That's fractionalgurus.com. And with that, I give you David Baughman and Nauman Poonja. Welcome, David and Nauman.
Hi, Ben. Happy to be with you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. And I apologize, Nauman, for the pronunciation of the name that I'm trying to get it right.
That was close enough. So that's perfect.
Relatively close. So look, I appreciate you guys coming on. I guess the first question for both of you in turn, maybe Nauman, you can go first, and then David, if you could just give us a quick 1 or 2 minute background or context to how we got to be talking about tag team fractional leadership, turning over operations. Like, what's your quick background that got us to this point?
I think what helps us is that both of us, right, have a similar industry background. So, David has much more experience in the manufacturing world, but I've been in a similar industry as him. So the way we met is at a company called WellFlex, where David was the CEO over there, and I came in as a fractional CFO controller. As part of that, I got to help David, kind of transition that company. It was going through a bit of a downturn with the oil and gas industry, in the 2020. And, we got to work together. We got to experience each other's style and how we work well together, what works for both of us and our personalities. And, that allowed us that once we, WellFlex kind of ran its course to go to and do other things together and have that trust that, hey, if a client needs help with X or Y, I know David can help them with it, and vice versa. So that's kind of, David tells the story way better than I do, but that's kind of the genesis of how it all got started.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to say it was destiny, but it seems like it. I was running a company in Fort Worth during COVID, which is oil and gas, and we needed a CFO desperately. We were going through a transition time, and we were having a really bad time with our auditors. So I interviewed Nauman on a Zoom call to be our CFO, and we really connected very well. I made him an offer to become our CFO, and he said, no, I'm actually starting a fractional service. I really can't do that. And I said, okay, I understand. I said, could you do me a favor? Would you mind hopping on the call with my auditor and pretending you work for me and help me with the auditor? He said, sure, absolutely, David. And he did such a great job that he taught me about the fractional world. And so we agreed to have him be our fractional CFO. I'll be honest with you, we wouldn't be here today if he had been my CFO for the year before that. But we are here today because, quite frankly, Nauman and yourself, Ben, were the two gentlemen who really taught me about fractional world. Nauman said, Dave, you really got to look at this. This is a great world. And you're the first person I talked to, Ben. So I don't know if it's fate or not, but it is.
Well, it's great the three of us are together. So that's awesome. So let me ask you this is, and I will leave this open to either one of you, is what led the two of you to want to pursue this tag team joint offering of two fractional executives together, kind of taking kind of all the ownership of operations basically off, even though it's on a fractional basis, from the founder or whatever the current leadership team is. So, like, I guess what led to this new model? Because the fact of people using fractionals, okay, that's a lot of people do that. The fact of people using multiple fractionals simultaneously is also not, other people do that as well. I think this idea of turning it over and doing it kind of jointly or together is different. It's novel. So, like, what led to this?
I'll take that if you don't mind, Nauman, then you can chime in. So Nauman and I, with the Fractional Gurus, we've had conversations, knowledge sharing through 2021. And I had two clients of mine that had two specific needs. The first one, one of my clients, we were doing a transfer from an ERP system. And I asked Nauman to come in and help us understand some of the nuances of that transfer. And he did a great job. The second one was I had a client last fall that ran into some financial difficulties, and it was pretty dire. And so I had a conversation with the owner and said, "You let me take charge of the operations and running it. You go out and get some quick sales. And I've got a guy that I trust to help us with the financial modeling and financial management of it." And so Nauman stepped in, and immediately the two of us, because we knew each other so well, there was no learning curve on day one on this rescue. And then it just morphed. In January of this past year, my client, where Nauman had advised us, he came on as our fractional CFO and literally just stepped right in and did his magic. And so the two of us, we've just decided that we work so well together that it's just like a natural fit, and the clients love it. Nauman?
Yeah, so for me, when I started this and wanting to work with others, and I think it's similar to what you're doing with fractional leadership or what anybody else is doing, is I wanted my clients to have good advice when they needed it. And so initially, what I was actually looking for was just a group of professionals, right, that I can refer to when my clients need help. But I think what's worked really well for David and I is we understand each other at this point, and we know what each one of us expects from the other. So what works out really well is when we go in on day one, there isn't a learning curve. Now there's a learning curve about the company, but there isn't a learning curve of the expectation David has from me versus what expectations I have from David. It's just when we step in, we can kind of hit the ground running because we both know what the other person's thinking and what the other person's expecting of us. So it kind of creates that synergy that actually benefits and creates value for the client, because the client needs one of the ones that David just mentioned, they didn't have cash for the next payroll, but we were able to kind of go in and kind of quickly look at it. Now I don't want to sell this as like we're a turnaround kind of guys. We're more so we're going in and we want to help our clients. And I think we've been very blessed to have are certain clients who recognize what their weaknesses are. So they're more so willing to say, hey, you guys focus on that. I'm going to focus on what I enjoy.
So Nauman, let me ask a follow-up, that you could, you can speak to, and maybe David can chime in on this one afterwards. But so help me understand what mechanically that looks like. Like when you say like give over, or David said earlier, give over operations to you guys, or you guys focus on sales. Look, we'll do ops and finance. Like mechanically, like really, like you're not there full time. So what does that look like? Like mechanically, how does that work?
Sure. So I think let me first explain from a finance perspective, and then maybe David can chime in from his operations perspective. So from finance perspective, there's two models that have kind of worked out for us. So sometimes, they have fractional, they have an on-site bookkeeper. So there are some clients that will have an on-site bookkeeper, and then what we're doing is providing controller and higher level services. So we're still working with that bookkeeper. So basically, in that case, what happens is that bookkeeper is working for me. And David, not the owner. Of course, they're getting paid by the owner, but they're working with our directions. So we have other clients where they don't have anybody at all. So in I actually have a team that can kind of take over all of the accounting. So I have a staff of, bookkeepers, controllers, and CFOs, right? That can kind of take over all of the various aspects of the business. So now we're actually providing a fractional finance department to that. So it kind of works well. Now, what's worked out really well for us, and why I think it works and may speak to kind of some level of consistency, is we kind of work in like a pod structure.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I have a team of bookkeeper and controller and CFO, well, they're consistently working with David. So, from operations perspective, it kind of works well because David can address it. But, I believe as long as the CEO and the founders, whoever we're working with, sees the value, sees the financial statements they're getting, the information, they feel more knowledgeable about it, they gain that confidence. And I think what helps us in being successful is the complementary aspect of than what David provides. So I'll let David kind of speak more to the COO aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's actually, it's a very good explanation. Nauman and I, we have our expertise in certain fields that usually the visionary / owners, they're not really into that. For me, all 3 of my clients, I have direct reports, and all 3 of my clients, 2 of them, which Nauman is with me, they rely on me to manage the day-to-day activities, make the trains run on time. What the value that's added is Nauman provides me the data of the cost, the execution, the modeling. If we do this, what will happen? If we don't do this, what will happen? And it's very seamless. And the owners seem to love the fact that Nauman and I have looked at the data, crunched it, and have all the answers that they could ask. And we've done all the homework in advance where they don't have to do that anymore. Because let's face it, how many visionaries like to stare at QuickBooks for 5 hours a day? Right. I happen to like doing it. Nauman loves doing it. And so basically we provide a service to them where, my tagline is I give you your life back. And it kind of does really make sense that happens.
Right. That's amazing. You've said to me before, David, that you're thinking of, or you guys are working on, or I don't know how public this is yet, that you're thinking about working on expanding and bringing other people into this model of also being fractional gurus, tag teams, pods, I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
The attack of the pod people. I don't know how you look at this, but the, how and why, I guess, first of all, before we get into subsequent questions, are you looking to bring other people into this that, I don't know, maybe you didn't work with them in these organizations that you were in full time before. You didn't have the history that you guys have. So how and why, I guess, is bringing you guys to consider bringing other people into this tag team, kind of takeover operations model?
So Nauman already has a great staff of people. Nauman has a firm for FES, Fractional Executive Solutions. I've brought a gentleman on board that I implicitly trust that will represent my brand the way I would do it. Because the big challenge I'll have from an operations perspective is, if I'm not getting you, what am I getting? And so the 2 of us, similar background in manufacturing, aerospace, lean manufacturing, ISO 9000. I know that when this gentleman works with my clients or Nauman, he'll probably act the same way and do the same things that I do. And we're going through a process now, generating that system where the 2 of us will be the same. Last week, Nauman and I did an event in Frisco, and my new gentleman came and met Nauman for the first time. And I just watched the synergy happen, quite frankly. They were just off on the side, talking, swapping. And so my goal is to create an FES deployment system that everybody would be a process understood and followed by all.
And okay, so you trust this guy implicitly.
Yes.
Like, what about the next person and the next person? Like, do you plan to stop it there, or like how will you ensure consistency and quality of any additional people that you might involve?
So my background is lean manufacturing, continuous improvement, Toyota production system. And the key word there is standardization. Create a process, standardization on everything. And so I'm very picky who I'm going to bring in to represent my name, because I do have certain standards that I expect to meet. but I'll be creating, I have collateral that I create for the coaching aspect that you would follow. And what I'm looking for is your style of how you would teach it with the concepts that we have. It's a great question though. That is a concern of mine, is whoever comes into my umbrella has to have that same passion for continuous improvement and same passion for being servant leadership.
Okay. Let me ask you this: like, there are groups out there like TechCXO that are like multidisciplinary fractional leaders or fractional executives. Is this basically the same as that? Is it different? Would you distinguish it? Would you say it's a similar type of thing? Like, is this essentially a firm that you're building, or is it something else? Like, I don't know. I guess, how would you compare, contrast, distinguish from some other things that people might have heard of before?
I wouldn't call it a firm because there's no financial tie-in. There's no
So the client
contract.
pays you separately and pays Nauman separately, or
Yes.
anybody else that might start getting involved, they're going to pay
Correct.
each one separately.
Correct. For example, Nauman and I have just started a client about 6 weeks ago, 2 separate contracts, 2 separate systems. But unbeknownst to the two of us, we were asked to talk to this client and give advice, on a couple things, and it became a job interview. And after 60 minutes, we both landed a new client, and we were both negotiating with the client side by side, but separately. And that's kind of how I would view it, is that if a client requires an all-encompassing buffet, if you will, that the two of us could work together on that, and as well as the other 2 gurus as well. Nauman?
Yes. So I would also say, right, so the reason it's not a firm, one, like you said, is financial tie-in, but then we also both have clients that the other person is not included in or is part of. And that's the beauty of this, right? Because we're not trying to push services on our clients. That's not the goal here. What we're trying to do is, if our clients needs help, we want somebody to be there, somebody we trust implicitly, and somebody who we know we work really well with. So, I may have X number of clients, David may have, different number of clients, but we don't have to. And I think not being a firm allows that luxury, right? So tomorrow, if David was working with, I love working with David and with another fractional CFO as well, he's not going to hurt my feelings. I think when you kind of then go to a firm route, you kind of box things in,
right,
where you're only working with certain support. And I think it's similarly the other way, right? If I was working with other COOs, I don't think David's going to be offended by that, because our goal is to provide the best to our clients and be able to support them. I think what's worked well for us is, yes, our formula of, we both know what to expect from each other, but as part of that process, because now we have worked with several clients together, so you're talking about the quality control, we've come up with templates of, hey, this is what the cash flow looks like that makes sense to David and makes sense to me, that is helping us answer and making decisions quickly. So from a firm perspective, I'm kind of trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to put processes in place, good foundation in place, good project management tools in place, where while I may not be actively involved with a client, we still want to monitor what our what our clients are getting, and they're getting it timely. Personally, I plan to do the NPI that surveys on a regular basis to make sure our clients continue to be happy, and my people are rewarded based off of client satisfaction, not based off of that. We are an accounting firm, but we're not a traditional accounting firm, so by any means, for me, I couldn't care less about hours. That just is the most meaningless thing on earth. For me, it's all about client value and client satisfaction, right? So I think if we focus on that and then continuously building out templates, and a base, and then bringing people through a process instead of just hiring just for the sake of growth, I think that's what allows us to manage our quality.
Right. Very cool. Nauman, I mean, a follow-up question on this, which is that's amazing. It does give you that flexibility, but with you guys working on not necessarily the same clients, so it kind of brings into it the challenge of the supply-demand balance, right? Which is that maybe you have somebody that's coming on as a client for you, or potentially, and they need a fractional COO, but David's not available, or whatever. Like, how do you, I I guess, balance the supply and demand of like a different, I mean, I guess you have the same issue probably in a firm because, no, you still have humans, right? Regardless of what the business structure is. But like, how do you guys balance the needs of clients and whether they need one, they need both, and each one's availability and things like that?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, right? Like David's not going to hurt my feelings if we are out of capacity and he has to go to another CFO to meet the clients. Like I said, what we want is what's best for the client, not what's necessarily just going to grow our business. And I think that's what the clients see, and that's what kind of helps them. But we both have clients, and then we both have capacities, right? Certain capacities, but like I said, it's no different than any firm. I think as we have more people who are part of the system and who are trained on the same things, I think that gives us a bit of more flexibility, right? Between who's working with what client, and some of it is going to be as we continue to grow, some of it is just going to be the growing pains we kind of work through, right, and try to just figure out.
Right. Let me ask this. Maybe David, I'll direct this at you. Other people out there, there's fractional executives, other people out there that might be thinking of, hey, maybe I could team up with one of my colleagues, in this space and do something similar. I guess, what are the biggest mistakes or pitfalls or misimpressions or misbeliefs that people who might be contemplating this might be having, that you want to, maybe based on your experience and actually doing it, maybe disabuse people of so they could do it more successfully?
The first thing I would advise anybody who's going to do this is make sure you really have a connection with your potential partner. So Nauman and I'll be honest with you, clicked from the first 10 minutes of our first phone call when I was trying to hire him. And I could tell Nauman's ethics, his honesty, his conservatism fit my personality and my needs perfectly. And I would be very careful of who you partner up with to make sure you're both going to treat the client the same, you're both going to respect each other the same, and that your skill sets complement each other. So Nauman has worked with other people such as myself, and he could probably answer to this, where it wasn't the same for whatever reason. And I have worked with other financial folks other than Nauman. I would just make sure that you're really comfortable who you're going to be working with. If you're going to put your name next to their name, it's really got to be really rock solid relationship, honest, open, and but impactful.
Yeah, I think the biggest key is having the personalities and your work styles complement one another, right? I think there's so much benefit in the companies I work with David. There's a lot of benefit I get out of it just purely because we kind of have complementary personalities, and we have just as for example, I'm a finance professional, right? As a finance professional, I always have a very conservative outlook on things. I'm always going to be a bit more conservative than aggressive, and David is more aggressive than conservative. But together, we kind of meet in the middle somewhere.
Most times,
it works out well, right? And I think it serves the client well, because I think if they only had a conservative person, it sucks, and if they only had a very aggressive person, it's then everything's rosy. So you gotta work together in that. So I think that's the big key. I think the biggest thing I saw was our personality types and our way of working with the client. And who's are you willing to push? Are you willing to? Because I think part of why it works for us is because we're both very driven individuals. So whenever I take all my clients personally, like, to me, their success is my success. If they're not doing well, I'm failing. It's funny, like one of our clients, when they're struggling with cash flow, I'm more stressed about it and more worried about it than the client and David. And it's just for me, it's personal, because I want them to succeed. And I think it's the same for David. We want them to succeed. And I think if you have that personality, combination, I think it works really well, because now you're kind of, your values are the same, and you're kind of going after the same thing.
I'll add to that, and Nauman's absolutely correct. Sometimes he takes it more personal than the client and I do. He worries more about it, which is good. You want the finance guy to be worried about the finances. Right. That's awesome. The thing I think that Nauman and I, why we work so well together, both of us like to teach, and both of us are patient teaching our clients to learn the skills that they're going to need once we leave. I'll be honest with you, Nauman took one of my clients and put a financial system in place for them that they are just thriving with that system now, where he hasn't been with them in what, 4 or 5 months?
Mhm.
And they just took off. And he made it a personal mission to teach them how to put the systems in place, how to use these systems. And so I think both of us, with our patience of teaching and our love of teaching, I think that's why we mesh really well together.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, it's all right. So, I mean, what I'm taking away is, if you're a fractional leader, fractional executive out there, then, be thinking about, if you're thinking of, kind of getting married, so to speak, with somebody and really partnering closely, even if you're not becoming part of the same company, like really make sure you know them implicitly.
Mhm.
You can work together like hand in glove. It's a friction-free relationship. Doesn't mean you're not different and complementary in
Right.
different ways,
Mhm.
but not in a frictionful way.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so that's great takeaways. I mean, look, I hope the people who are thinking of getting into something like this, or even people on the client side, on the business side, listening to this, who are thinking of, what kind of fractional executive, solutions they need for their own business, can kind of be aware that this is another possibility out there of the way people work. And obviously people can learn about you, fractionalgurus.com, you guys. And just really, really appreciate you taking the time to share about this kind of innovative, way of doing business. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on, Ben. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Really is.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. I think a lot of fractionals can benefit from it, and I think a lot of business owners can get a lot of value out of it. And I think that's what excites me the most about it, because I think it's beneficial for both sides, where both sides is getting a lot of
Right.
value out of it, and I think that's the best part about it.
Right. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I definitely appreciate it. I think they will. I think they will benefit a lot from it. And I really appreciate you guys coming on, and everybody else out there. We'll see you on the other side. Thanks.
You're listening to Win Win, an entrepreneurial community with your host, Ben Wolf.